The iron bar glowed a sinister red. She was naked, her wrists bound by heavy chains. They forced her to her knees. Her transgression wasn't theft. It wasn't violence. Her only crime was daring to escape. The branding iron hissed as it neared her face, but she twisted her back. Too late. The stench of burning flesh filled the air. A single choked scream. Then an absolute silence. The mark was forever. A sign for everyone to see. It proclaimed that she had once been someone's property, and she had forgotten her place. In ancient Rome, this wasn't mere punishment. It was called justice. Their goal wasn't just to make you suffer. They sought to erase who you were. The heat and the pain scarred the skin, but the branding was only the introduction. You won't believe what came next. What followed was calculated to destroy the spirit from the inside out. She had survived the brand, but Rome's justice had only just begun. The next morning, they shackled her to a post in the Butterfly Square. Stripped to the waist, the crowd amassed not to intervene but to be entertained. The whip was not a strip of leather. It was a vicious bone tip weighted with heavy lead. Each strike didn't just cut the surface, it tore away the muscle. Again and again. Yet she made no sound. Not because the pain was absent, but because she understood their true desire. In Rome, the suffering itself was secondary. It was a public performance, designed to be a brutal lesson for anyone else considering rebellion. The whip was not just a weapon. It was a starring role in the show, and the victim was nothing more than a moving prop. By the time they finally stopped, her back was a mass of raw meat, but she still drew breath. And for her defiance, Rome had far more horrifying measures planned. She could no longer run, so they guaranteed she would never get the chance. They brought her to the entrance of the estate, not for private shaming, but to be a constant, visible warning. Every day, under the gaze of every guest who arrived, whether in the brutal cold or the driving rain, she was forced to eat from a meager bowl. She slept on the bare dirt. She would use stormwater runoff to wash herself during a tempest. And every single dawn, the master would stride past her, without ever casting a second glance. In Rome, this wasn't viewed as excessive cruelty. It was considered keeping order. The law explicitly permitted it. In fact, it actively promoted it. A slave in chains by the front gate was the best way to ensure everyone inside remained loyal. Her body was not hers. Her time was not hers. Her face was already disfigured. Now they were determined to steal her silence too, and if she imagined that was the extent of her agony, she had not yet faced the mines. Some were scourged. Some were bound. But the people they truly wanted to vanish from existence were sent deep underground. No sunlight. No outside voices. Just a final journey into the Earth's dark core. The mines weren't prison sentences. They were death warrants. You would wake before the dawn. You would crawl into a tunnel with no illumination, no fresh air, and no hope of escape. A pickaxe tight in one hand. The stone wall pressing against the other. The dust choked your lungs. The deeper you dug, the more your very identity was stripped away. And that was the calculated intent. In Rome, the mines were more than labor camps. They were tombs you were forced to excavate for yourself. You stopped counting the hours. You forgot the outside world existed. No recognition. No tributes. Just bones left in the rock. Yet even this wasn't Rome's ultimate act of brutality. When blood wasn't spilled in the subterranean darkness, they shed it for entertainment under the sun. The mines consumed people silently. But the arena, it roared. Here the terrible sights were not concealed. Admission was charged. The victims' names were announced. Applause erupted. When Rome wished to punish a runaway slave and have the whole world enjoy it, they were condemned to the arena. It was fight or perish. Some were savagely thrown to starved animals. Others were pitted against trained soldiers with no weapons, no armor, only the certainty of pain. The masses were enthralled. Men raised their thumbs high. Women shrieked and pointed. Children laughed when the victim collapsed. And the most sickening detail, you didn't just die as a person, you died as a dreadful lesson. Rome called it justice, but it was a spectacular show. Vicious, bloody, and impossible to forget. They didn't just end your life. They transformed your final gasp into a perverse trophy. As the dust settled and the crowd reached its deafening peak, a new prisoner was dragged in. Trembling, injured, eyes wide with terror, because in Rome the cruelty did not cease. It simply repeated. The brand mark eventually faded. The whip scars scabbed over. The chains began to rust. But what Rome had created never truly vanished. Because abuse does not simply rot away. It adapts, it finds new names. New rules, new uniforms, and sometimes even today it still demands silence from anyone who dares to challenge it. This is not mere history, it is a terrifying warning. The people who suffered are gone, but the echo of their screaming is still clearly heard.